Most of what shapes our inner world does not come from dramatic breakthroughs. It comes from the quiet habits we repeat every single day. And breathing is the perfect example. It has always been automatic, running in the background from the day we were born. But the moment we begin to breathe with intention, something subtle and powerful starts to change inside the nervous system. The brain loves patterns. It relaxes into whatever we do repeatedly. So when conscious breathing becomes a small daily ritual, the mind gradually shifts from tension to steadiness, not through force, but through gentle repetition woven into ordinary moments of life. The silent electrical storm. How your brain and breath talk to each other. The breath is the only system in the human body that works automatically yet can be consciously guided at any moment, turning it into a living bridge between the hidden world of the nervous system and the waking world of daily experience. From the outside, breathing looks simple. The chest rises, the chest falls, air comes in, air goes out. It is so familiar that the mind almost stops noticing it at all. Yet beneath this ordinary movement, a quiet storm of electricity is in motion. Every inhale, every exhale, every subtle shift in rhythm sends ripples through the brain, shaping mood, awareness, clarity, and the level of calm or intensity that exists inside the body. The brain is not just a thinking machine. It is a biological power grid made of billions of nerve cells, constantly sending electrical signals through pathways that light up and dim down like a vast city seen from space at night. These signals control everything that makes you feel alive: thought, memory, emotion, focus, imagination, stillness, excitement, peace, tension. The wiring is alive, responsive, and always listening to what the breath is doing. That is why breath is not merely an exchange of oxygen. It is communication. Every breath is a message. When breathing becomes shallow, tight, rushed, or chaotic, the nervous system reads this as a warning signal. The mind may not notice, but the body does. Muscles prepare to tighten. The heart prepares to beat faster. Hormones associated with vigilance and alertness whisper through the bloodstream. The brain begins to scan for danger, even when none is present. It is as if a red traffic light quietly switches on inside the nervous system, redirecting energy toward survival rather than clarity or creativity. But when the breath slows, deepens, softens, and becomes steady, a very different message is sent. The brain receives signals of safety. Muscles soften. The heart begins to slow. The mind becomes clearer and less chaotic. The inner world feels steadier, more grounded, as if a green signal has opened the path to rest, recovery, focus, and emotional balance. Nothing mystical, only physiology, endlessly elegant in its design. So the breath becomes a remote control you always carry inside you, constantly able to dial the nervous system toward intensity or toward calm. No batteries, no instructions needed, just awareness. Imagine a remote control that allows you to change the internal channel from anxiety to clarity, from overload to steadiness, from scattered thought to focused presence. The buttons are simple: pace, depth, rhythm, awareness. Every change in breath pattern sends an instant update to the nervous system. And the nervous system updates the brain. And the brain updates the way you feel, think, react, and perform. To understand this better, picture the electrical rhythm of the brain not as a rigid machine but as an ocean of tiny waves. When you are calm, those waves become smoother and more organized. When you are stressed, they become more irregular and storm-like. Breathing is the wind that shapes these waves. Calm breathing smooths the surface. Chaotic breathing stirs the storm. Breathing is also one of the oldest biological systems in the human organism. Long before language, long before complex social structures, long before the world demanded constant stimulation, the breath was already there, guiding survival. The nervous system evolved to use breath as a key signal of what is happening. Fast breath means prepare. Slow breath means you are safe enough to relax. That is why it feels almost impossible to think clearly when you are panicking. The breath has already informed the brain that survival is now the main task. So the brain reroutes energy. Thought becomes less creative and more reactive. The world narrows. The mind stops exploring possibilities and instead prepares for action. But as soon as the breath begins to slow and deepen, the brain receives permission to reopen the world again. Breath is the messenger that never stops speaking. It speaks when you are awake. It speaks when you sleep. It speaks during stress and during peace. Yet very often, people go through life without ever learning how to listen to this messenger, let alone consciously speak back to it. Take a simple moment right now and observe the breath as if you have never seen it before. Notice whether it is shallow or full, quick or slow, rough or smooth, tight or free. Behind these qualities are messages being transmitted up through the spinal cord into the deepest areas of the brain that govern alertness and emotional tone. There are clusters of neurons that constantly monitor the subtle pressure and rhythm of airflow. When breathing becomes calm, these neurons send reassuring electrical patterns that ripple outward like peaceful waves across a lake. These signals tell the brain that it can relax its guard. Muscles release slight tension, the face softens, thoughts slow down, a sense of space appears between you and the world. In contrast, when breathing becomes short and erratic, those same clusters of neurons send a very different electrical rhythm. The brain becomes less spacious. The world feels tighter. Thoughts grow sharper but also more restless. The entire body leans forward into a defensive state that may not even be consciously noticed. This constant conversation between breath and brain is silent, continuous, and powerful. And here is where awareness changes everything. The majority of bodily systems cannot be consciously controlled. You cannot consciously adjust your liver. You cannot directly command your heart to slow or speed without using some indirect method. But the breath is an exception. You can guide it at will. And the nervous system is wired to respond almost immediately. That makes breathing one of the most direct ways to influence your inner world. You can think of this like tuning an instrument. When the breath is disorganized, the nervous system is out of tune. When the breath becomes rhythmic and intentional, the nervous system begins to retune itself automatically. With time, this tuning becomes easier, faster, and more stable. What was once chaos can become coherence. The metaphor of a remote control is useful here because it highlights both accessibility and responsibility. A remote control does not overwhelm you with complexity. It simply gives you options. Louder, softer, brighter, darker, more intense, less intense. In the same way, your breath does not need to become dramatic or exaggerated. Small adjustments can create meaningful shifts inside the brain. When you lengthen the exhale gently, the nervous system tilts toward relaxation. When you deepen the inhale in a slow, controlled manner, the mind becomes clearer and more awake without tipping into agitation. When the breath becomes smooth and balanced, attention sharpens naturally. Breath becomes not only life support but emotional navigation. The beauty of this biological design is that you do not need special tools or complex environments. You carry the system within you everywhere you go. On a train, in a meeting, while walking, while resting, before sleep, after waking, the breath is always available, always loyal, always ready to help you return to center. But awareness is the key that unlocks this remote control. Without awareness, the breath simply reacts to life. With awareness, the breath helps shape life. And this is where practice enters. Many people imagine that guiding the breath requires long sessions or complicated techniques. But even brief, intentional moments can begin shifting the nervous system. A simple reset can act like a soft reboot for the electrical storms inside the brain, calming the surge and restoring clarity. Here is a short practice designed to gently reset the communication lines between breath and brain. Find a comfortable posture where the spine is supported and the shoulders can release away from the ears. Allow the mouth to soften. Begin by inhaling gently through the nose for a slow count of 4 seconds. Though do not count out loud. Simply feel the breath filling the lower ribs and the back of the body as calmly as possible. Then pause lightly for the duration of 2 seconds without straining or forcing the hold. After this soft pause, exhale through the mouth for 6 slow seconds, allowing the shoulders and jaw to melt downward as if tension is leaving the body. Repeat this smooth cycle 5 times, letting each round be as natural and unhurried as possible. Writing the timing in words makes it easier to remember. Inhale for 4. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6. Repeat 5 rounds. This simple reset works because it changes the rhythm of the electrical signals moving between the lungs, the heart, And the brain. Longer exhales tell the nervous system that energy can shift from high alert into restoration. Slow nasal inhales support oxygen exchange in a balanced way. The short pause invites the mind to rest for a brief moment between impulses. Like the silence between musical notes that allows the melody to breathe. Over time, this kind of practice strengthens the dialogue between awareness and physiology. You begin to notice tension more quickly. You notice stress signals earlier. You also notice moments of calm more clearly, which encourages the body to return there. The breath becomes an ally instead of a background function. And perhaps the most empowering realization is this: the brain listens to the breath whether you guide it or not. So when you begin to guide the breath intentionally, you are not imposing something unnatural. You are simply choosing the messages you send through your own biological wiring. It is like learning to speak a language you have been hearing since birth. The more fluent you become in the language of breath, the more influence you can have over your internal state without suppressing or denying anything. Clarity becomes more accessible. Calm becomes a trained capacity rather than a rare accident. Focus becomes something you can return to again and again. The silent electrical storm in the brain continues. Because that is the nature of being alive. Sparks of thought, currents of feeling, waves of awareness. But the breath gives you a way to surf those waves rather than being tossed around by them. You begin to understand that the breath is not just air entering and leaving. It is guidance. It is feedback. It is the rhythm of life communicating with the deepest networks of your nervous system. And every inhale and exhale becomes an opportunity to choose the message you send. Slowly, this awareness can begin to influence the entire relationship you have with your inner world. Instead of feeling trapped inside emotional weather, you learn to observe the changing atmosphere with steadier footing. Instead of reacting to every internal signal as if it were an emergency, you learn to respond with intention. Breathing becomes a conversation instead of a reflex. And like any meaningful conversation, it deepens with time, attention, patience, and willingness to listen. So the invitation is simple and powerful. Notice your breath. Guide it gently. Listen to how your brain responds. And remember that this elegant system is yours for life. Because the breath is not just something you do. It is how your brain and body speak to each other. In a language older than words. In a rhythm that quietly shapes every moment of your existence. And the more consciously you participate in that conversation, the more spacious, grounded, and clear your inner world becomes. Oxygen meets electricity. Why conscious breathing boosts mental clarity. Clarity of mind is not an accident. It is the result of a steady inner environment where the brain receives the fuel it needs in the rhythm that best supports focus, calm attention, and organized thought. The brain may feel abstract, like a cloud of thoughts and ideas floating somewhere behind the forehead. In reality, it is a hungry living organ made of delicate tissue that depends on a constant supply of oxygen-rich blood. It is small when compared with the size of the whole body. Yet it consumes a surprisingly large share of available oxygen every single moment of your life. Without that oxygen, the electrical signals that allow you to think, remember, make decisions, solve problems, and stay centered begin to weaken. The result is fogginess, slower reaction, forgetfulness, irritation, and fatigue. To understand why conscious breathing matters, imagine the brain as a vast digital server full of circuits and micro pathways. A server needs clean, stable electrical power to operate smoothly. When the current is pure and steady, the system runs fast and clean. When the current becomes unstable, the machine lags, freezes, or throws errors. Oxygen is like purified electrical power for the brain. It supports the creation and transmission of electrical impulses through neurons. When oxygen supply is stable and sufficient, those signals move effortlessly. When the supply drops or becomes irregular, the signals lose their crispness. Mental life begins to feel like a slow loading screen instead of a sharp flowing stream. Breathing is the primary way oxygen reaches the brain. Of course, air must first enter the lungs. But that is only the beginning of the story. Oxygen bonds with hemoglobin in the blood. The heart pumps this oxygen-rich blood upward toward the head. Fine blood vessels weave through brain tissue like intricate rivers irrigating a dense forest. As oxygen is delivered, neurons produce the energy they need to keep firing their tiny electrical storms. Thoughts flicker, Memories awaken. Emotions come alive. All of this depends on a continuous dance between oxygen and electricity. When you breathe with intention, you influence this dance directly. Slow, steady nasal breathing improves the ratio between oxygen intake and carbon dioxide release. It also supports healthier blood flow, ensuring that the highways and back roads of the circulatory system deliver their precious cargo evenly and efficiently. This is one reason why conscious breathing is deeply physiological. There is nothing mystical about it. It changes chemistry, circulation, and neural activity in measurable ways. Consider what happens when breathing becomes shallow and rapid. Less air reaches the lower regions of the lungs where gas exchange is most efficient. The body begins to operate as if it is under threat. Blood vessels in various parts of the body can tighten. The balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide shifts. The brain interprets this pattern as a sign of urgency and redirects attention toward scanning for danger rather than reflection or creativity. The server has begun to flicker. Power is unstable. Processes lag. Now imagine breathing that is slow, deep, and unforced. The diaphragm moves like a calm wave, gently massaging the organs and helping blood return more easily to the heart. Oxygen levels in the blood become more stable. Carbon dioxide is released at a healthy rate. Blood vessels remain more relaxed, supporting consistent flow to brain tissue. Neurons receive the resources they need to fire clearly and cleanly. The server has a pure electrical flow again. Tasks run smoothly. Systems synchronize. Thought becomes clearer. Reaction time improves. Memory feels sharper. Scientists often describe this relationship as neurovascular coupling. When brain regions are active, local blood flow increases to supply more oxygen and glucose. Breathing patterns influence this coupling process. Rhythm, depth, and consistency all shape how well oxygenated blood is delivered. When you cultivate breathing that is steady, the delivery system becomes more efficient. This is not about forcing the body. It is about restoring its natural balance. Electrical activity in the brain can be measured as waves. When a person is restless or anxious, those waves can become disorganized. Conscious breathing helps stabilize these waves. Calm, rhythmic breath has a soothing effect on the networks that regulate attention, emotional tone, and executive control. The body is no longer acting as if it needs to run. Instead, it settles into a mode where it can think, plan, learn, and respond with intelligence. The impact of oxygen on mental clarity is also connected to energy production inside brain cells. Each neuron contains tiny power stations that convert oxygen and nutrients into usable energy. When oxygen is plentiful, these power stations work efficiently. When oxygen delivery falters, the system becomes sluggish. With repeated periods of poor oxygenation, the brain may become more prone to fatigue and poor concentration. This is not a moral failure. It is a supply issue. It is common to talk about focus as if it were purely psychological. In truth, it is both psychological and biological. Conscious breathing supports the biological foundations so that psychological focus has a healthier platform to rest upon. It is much easier to maintain attention when the brain is well fueled. Motivation, discipline, and life purpose all matter, but they operate much better when oxygen flow is steady. Think again of the brain as a server room filled wall to wall with humming machines. Cool, clean air circulates to prevent overheating. Stable power lines feed the entire network. Even minor fluctuations in temperature or electricity can ripple across the system. Breathing consciously is like maintaining that climate and electrical purity inside your own head. You are caring for the environment in which your thoughts live. Mental sharpness is not just about raw intelligence. It is about the ability to access that intelligence in the moment. When oxygen delivery is high quality, signals travel more quickly and cleanly along neural pathways. This improves reaction time and supports learning. Memory becomes easier to retrieve because the circuits involved are firing efficiently. Even emotional regulation benefits. A calm brain is a brain that can experience strong feelings while still making wise decisions. One of the most remarkable aspects of conscious breathing is how quickly it can begin to shift your internal state. You do not need complex equipment or long training. You simply need to pay attention to the way air moves in and out. When you sit or stand tall and breathe with intention, you are directly affecting the oxygenation of the brain and the pattern of neural firing. It is both subtle and deeply powerful. Let us explore how to bring this into daily experience through a simple practice that nourishes the brain almost like premium fuel. Begin by taking a posture that allows the spine to be long without strain. You can stand or sit. Let the chest remain relaxed and the shoulders soft. Allow the face to ease and let the jaw unclench. Breathe in slowly through the nose for about 5 seconds. Feel the cool air entering and expanding the lower ribs and the back of the body. Imagine that each lung cell is opening gently like a small umbrella receiving the breath. As you do this, many people notice a slight sense of brightness or coolness at the back of the head. This is not magic. It is a natural sensory reflection of increased airflow, improved circulation, and perhaps a subtle shift in how attention is directed. After the inhale, release the breath smoothly for about 5 to 6 seconds. Let the exhale be spacious and calm rather than forced. Imagine a soft tide rolling back out to sea. During this exhale, see if you can maintain a feeling of length in the spine and openness in the chest. There is no need to slump or collapse. Repeat this gentle cycle around 10 times. With each round, picture the brain as that server once again. Oxygen is flowing in like a purified electrical current, energizing every pathway. Old static is dissolving, circuits are clearing, programs are running smoothly. This vivid image helps make the practice feel real and grounded instead of mechanical. When you finish, pause for a moment and observe. Many people notice that the mind feels brighter but not agitated, calm but not sleepy. That is the sweet spot where oxygen and electricity are in harmony. It is the biological basis of mental clarity. This type of conscious breathing is firmly grounded in physiology. It changes blood chemistry. It calms the stress response. It supports heart rhythm. It steadies electrical patterns in the brain. People across the world are rediscovering that they do not need external tools to influence their inner state. The body already contains powerful systems of regulation. Breath is one of the most accessible. There is also a deep wisdom in linking breath with posture. When you sit or stand upright, the lungs can expand more fully and the diaphragm can move freely. This enhances oxygen exchange. A lifted posture also communicates safety and openness to the nervous system. Combined, these two elements create an ideal environment for clarity to grow. Over time, conscious breathing can become a natural habit. Instead of only breathing deeply during stressful moments, you begin to live with a smoother rhythm throughout the day. This reduces background tension and frees mental energy for creative thought, problem solving, and meaningful connection. You are not fighting your biology. You are working with it. Consider daily situations where a small shift in oxygenation could make a big difference. Before speaking in a meeting, before studying, before beginning a complex task, before engaging in an emotional conversation, taking several conscious breaths beforehand gives the brain a head start. It is like powering up a system before opening demanding applications. Yet this is not about perfection. There will be days when breathing is tight or shallow. That is normal. The invitation is simply to notice and gently guide the breath back towards steadiness whenever you can. Each time you do, oxygen flow improves. Each time oxygen flow improves, the brain thanks you by offering a little more clarity. Mental clarity is not a luxury. It is a foundation for wise living. It allows you to see options where previously there were none. It allows you to respond rather than react. It allows you to connect ideas in original ways. It supports resilience in the face of challenge. And remarkably, a large part of this capacity rests on something as humble and ever-present as your breath. In this way, conscious breathing becomes a daily expression of self-care for the most complex organ in your body. You are tending to your inner server, making sure the power lines are clean and strong. You are creating a healthy environment for thought, memory, emotion, and awareness to flourish. The more you explore this connection, the more you realize that clarity is not only a mental event but a physical process happening inside the living tissue of the brain. Oxygen feeds that tissue. Breathing guides oxygen. Awareness guides breathing. And through that simple chain, you gain meaningful influence over the quality of your inner life. So the next time you feel foggy, scattered, or overwhelmed, return to your breath. Let air flow slowly and steadily through the nose. Allow the exhale to be long and calm. Repeat this with patience and curiosity. You are not performing a trick. You are supporting biology. You are restoring clean electrical flow to the most sophisticated server you will ever own. Over days, weeks, and months, this simple practice becomes part of who you are. Your brain learns to trust the steadiness of your breath. Oxygen delivery remains more stable. Electrical patterns become more coherent. Focus rises naturally. Reaction time improves without strain. Memory feels more dependable. Emotional balance strengthens. All of this begins with something as ordinary as the next breath. And that is the beauty of it. Mental clarity is not far away. It is as close as the air that enters your lungs, travels through your bloodstream, and dances with the electrical storms inside your brain, bringing light, steadiness, and the quiet brilliance of true awareness. Stress, the nervous system, and breathing, breaking the loop. True resilience does not begin in the mind. It begins in the body, in the quiet rhythms that shape the way the nervous system responds to challenge, pressure, uncertainty, and emotional weight. When those rhythms become chaotic, the mind follows. When they become steady again, clarity and calm slowly return. Stress is not simply a feeling. It is a full-body event. The nervous system is wired to detect threat, react quickly, and keep you safe. This protective design is ancient and powerful. When the nervous system senses danger, real or perceived, an entire internal cascade begins. Heart rate rises, muscles tighten, breathing becomes fast and shallow. Thoughts begin to race, attention narrows, the body prepares for action, whether that action is needed or not. This creates what many people experience as a stress loop. It begins with tension or anxiety. This tension speeds up breathing. Faster breathing speeds the heart. The faster heart intensifies emotional discomfort. Thoughts become more frantic. The world feels closer and tighter. That mental chaos feeds the original stress, and the loop keeps spinning. Once the loop is active, it can be difficult to slow down. The nervous system is doing exactly what it was designed to do: keep you alert and ready. But in modern life, many of the stressors we face are not physical dangers. They are deadlines, conversations, uncertainties, expectations, losses, disappointments, or constant stimulation. The body prepares for a sprint, but there is nowhere to run. Breathing becomes the bridge again, just as it is in every living moment. But here it takes on a very specific role. Conscious breathing acts like a reset command for the nervous system, as if you had a simple way to interrupt the frozen screen of stress, clear the backlog of worry, and allow the inner system to restart with greater ease. The key to understanding this is recognizing that the breath is both messenger and switch. When you breathe rapidly and shallowly, your body receives a signal that says something is wrong. When you breathe slowly and exhale longer than you inhale, a different signal is sent. The body hears that signal and gradually returns to a state of safety. People often assume that calming down requires controlling thoughts, but the nervous system does not respond most strongly to thoughts. It responds to breath, heart rhythm, and patterns of muscle tension. Conscious breathing works directly on the body first, allowing the mind to follow. Imagine for a moment that your nervous system is a busy command center full of lights, wires, and never-ending activity. When stress overwhelms the system, alarms go off, panels flash, energy surges, operators rush in different directions. The noise inside feels deafening. You may not know what to do or where to begin, but you do have one small button available to you. Pressing it does not erase the situation. What it does is stop the frantic spinning long enough for the system to stabilize again. Conscious breathing is that button. When you intentionally lengthen the exhale, you activate the branch of the nervous system responsible for rest, digestion, emotional regulation, and recovery. This branch slows the heart, softens muscular tension, and allows brain activity to reorganize. The internal storm begins to calm. You are not fighting stress. You are giving the body a reason to step out of survival mode. Survival mode is useful when you are in real danger. It sharpens reflexes and mobilizes energy. But it is not an ideal state for problem solving, creativity, or communication. In survival mode, your world becomes small. You see less possibility. You react instead of respond. You brace emotionally and physically. Everything feels urgent. Focus mode is different. In focus mode, energy is still available, but it is not chaotic. Awareness widens. Breathing becomes smoother. The heart is steady. Thought becomes more organized. You still recognize challenge, but you are no longer trapped inside the stress loop. The transition from survival mode to focus mode is not psychological willpower. It is physiological regulation, and the breath is the most direct way to guide that shift. Notice what happens in your own body during stress. Perhaps the jaw tightens. Perhaps the shoulders creep upward. Perhaps the stomach twists or the chest feels compressed. Most often, the breath becomes short and high in the chest. This pattern speeds the heart and tells the body that danger remains. Even if nothing on the outside changes, the inside continues to react as if the threat is alive. Now imagine doing the opposite. You allow the breath to become slower. You invite the exhale to last longer than the inhale. You soften the belly a little. The shoulders relax downward. Air moves deeper into the lungs. With each longer exhale, the nervous system receives a message that says you are safe enough to calm down. The loop begins to unwind. The heart rate drops. Muscles let go of unnecessary tension. Thoughts lose some of their frantic edge. This is not about forcing relaxation. It is about changing the signals that shape your internal landscape. Stress is not the enemy. Chronic stress without regulation is the problem. Without tools for recovery, the nervous system can become stuck in a continuous background state of alert. Over time, this leads to exhaustion, irritability, difficulty sleeping, trouble remembering, digestive discomfort, and emotional instability. The system was never designed to remain in high alert for long periods. It needs waves of activation followed by waves of restoration. Breathing intentionally with longer exhales creates restoration waves. Consider how elegantly this system works. You do not need any external device. You do not need advanced knowledge. You simply use what has been available to you since birth. Breath comes in, breath goes out. But now, instead of being a passive passenger, you become an active participant in shaping the rhythm. The nervous system communicates largely through rhythm. The heart has a rhythm. Breathing has a rhythm. Neural activity has rhythm. Stress creates erratic rhythm. Conscious breathing reinstates smooth rhythm. The two are constantly interacting. Think about how music can change your mood. A fast, loud song can make you feel energized. A slow, soft melody can make you feel peaceful. Your nervous system reacts to internal rhythms in the same way. Fast breathing plays internal music of urgency. Slow, extended exhalations play internal music of safety. The idea of the breath being like a reset command is useful because it conveys two truths. The first is that stress can overwhelm inner systems. The second is that there is a built-in way to interrupt that overwhelm. You do not erase your life. You restore order. You reorient. Then you move forward with clarity. One of the most powerful and accessible ways to practice this is something many people now call the calm override. It is a simple technique grounded in physiology. Breathe in slowly and gently. Then breathe out for a longer period of time than you inhaled. If your inhale is slow and steady, let your exhale be slower and longer. Continue this for a few minutes. Bring your full awareness to the feeling of exhaling. Notice how the body softens each time the air leaves. To keep it concrete, imagine inhaling for the duration of a quiet count to 4 and exhaling for a soft count to 8. Do not rush either part. Do not force. Let the breath smooth itself out. Continue for about 2 to 3 minutes. Each long exhale is like gently pressing that reset button for your nervous system. As you repeat this practice, pay attention to the small changes. You may notice your shoulders drop. You may notice that the space behind your eyes feels wider. Your chest may release. Your heart may settle. Thoughts that felt sharp and loud may become less intense. Emotion may soften. You might even sigh naturally at some point. That sigh is the body releasing pressure. All of this is happening because the branch of the nervous system that supports calming and restoration is becoming more active. Longer exhales signal this branch to engage. The result is a real physiological shift. Heart rhythm changes. Blood vessels relax. Brain activity becomes more coherent. Hormonal output shifts toward balance. This is why the practice is not mystical. It is biology in motion. It is important to remember that stress will always exist. The goal is not to create a life without pressure. The goal is to build a body that knows how to return to balance. Each time you use conscious breathing to interrupt the stress loop, you are teaching your nervous system that it does not need to stay locked in high alert. Over time, this becomes a trained capacity. Calm appears more easily. Focus returns more quickly. Even in the midst of intense circumstances, the breath remains available. You could be in a busy environment, a complex conversation, or a quiet room. The reset command is still there. You simply guide the exhale longer, again and again, until the system receives the message. Notice that this does not deny emotion. You can be sad and still breathe calmly. You can be angry and still lengthen the exhale. You are not suppressing your experience. You are creating enough inner stability to engage with that experience wisely. There is something deeply empowering about realizing that you can influence your internal state from the inside out. You are not at the mercy of every surge of adrenaline or wave of anxiety. You have a biological handle. You have a way to support yourself with kindness rather than force. Think once more of the stress loop. Tension rises. Breathing speeds up. The heart accelerates. Worry grows. Thoughts spiral. Stress increases again. Now replace one link in that chain with conscious breathing. The loop breaks. The system resets. The pattern shifts. From there, focus becomes possible again. You can plan. You can communicate. You can choose. You can respond. Eventually, for many people, the reset button becomes second nature. At the first sign of overwhelm, they feel the breath beginning to shorten. Instead of letting the loop continue, they immediately slow the inhale and lengthen the exhale. Within minutes, the nervous system begins to settle, and the moment becomes manageable again. It is not magic. It is mastery of a natural process. And it begins with the next breath. So whenever you feel the world closing in, when your chest tightens and thoughts rush like a storm, remember that inside you is a quiet, steady tool for restoration. Use it. Breathe gently. Let the exhale last. Stay with it. Watch the body move from contraction to release. In doing so, you are not only calming down, you are reclaiming your ability to live from a place of clarity, presence, and grounded strength. You do not need more time, more tools, or a different life. You just begin to notice the moments that are already there, before you work. When stress rises, and as the day comes to a close, you let a few calm breaths slip into those spaces, again and again, until the nervous system learns that it is safe to settle. Small, repeatable, almost invisible habits, that is where real change lives. And if you stay with this practice long enough, one day you may realize that breathing is no longer just automatic. It has become a steady companion, quietly shaping the way you think, feel, rest, and live, one intentional breath at a time.